So, last we left off, long time ago, and a few interruptions in between with technical difficulties. Our players were just met up, and they heard screams outside. So now, back to the track. There's undead attacking the town. Was this a plan all along of the undead coming as a plot point, or was it a reason you had to get the party to actually have faith in each other and be members and not just a ragtag bunch of meetups?
I guess I would say some of both. I think that clearly from episode 1 and 2, Violet has some sort of connection to the undead, and she's unsure why. I think that, when I'm writing a story, especially at the beginning, it's so delicate. And I know if there's any other DMs watching out there, like when you're trying to make your party bond, sometimes a significant event, a significant person, a common goal, there's all kinds of like little hooks and different things out there. But for me, I like the, I want to unite in battle. That's kind of like my thing. So even from the first campaign we ever did, at the very beginning, there was like I wish we would have recorded that so we could have released that as an old-timey thing in the Princes of Peace campaign. But at the beginning, there was a general of the Stammering Sentinels who basically betrayed his troop, and the troop of soldiers was the party. So, instantly the party was bonded because they hated that guy so much together. So I guess you could say that this was something for me to put in there because I wanted to set up the the party together, and plus, as a DM and as players, I think it benefits both sides on this instance. I can kind of see how they're going to fight together, which allows me to create encounters that are funner and deeper and more competitive. And also it allows them to see where their synergy actually lies. Who needs to do what, who's good at what, and that type of stuff. So really, that first battle in episode 2, not just like an encounter, like, one-on-one or the party against this one set of thing. I mean, that was a battle. Like, you had Stammering Sentinels, I was rolling behind the screen, that were fighting. You had townspeople doing their thing. You had the party trying to locate screams and cries, and then they hear foot soldiers coming this way. So, I don't know. It was like an all-around, I guess, test battle, so I could see exactly how the party would react together.
So, the end of... Well, I wouldn't necessarily... I think, yeah, the end of episode 2, when Violet starts having her, I guess, vision, if you want to call it, or light show.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you decided would happen then, or is that something that Hunter, as a player playing as Violet, has to do something to activate those moments, or is that something you have pre-planned?
So every character has, I don't know, it's kind of like an itinerary or an agenda of sorts on my side, and I design it that way because I don't want me as a DM to have to be so pushy on their backstories or on their personal quests, as they've kind of come to know in our group. Because I think in D&D, one of the most important things, you have your main quest. Everyone knows there's a main quest. There's got to be a main quest, because that's the point of why we all show up and sit out there in the studio and play, because you want to know the story of the main quest and how it's going to go. But on a side note, I think another important part to D&D is character development. Like I'm starting out with this, I'll just use Hunter's character as an example. I'm starting out with this level 2 cleric, and I am getting to know her. I know what I wanted her to be. I sent the DM kind of how I wanted to play her, what she likes, what she dislikes, how her personality is constructed, and all those different things, and then what I want her to become. But I don't know how it's all going to happen. I don't know exactly how she's going to become that, or what to a T she is going to become. Like, I want her to be good, and I want her to, serve her monastery. I want her to serve Rhea the best that she can. But then it's up to me, when I get that information, how am I going to place it in the story to make it interesting and make it something that is personal to Hunter as a player, and really advance Violet in her development to become who Hunter envisions her to be. So it's all set. It is pre-planned, like the itinerary or agenda, but it's up to you guys as players to activate the next point of the itinerary. So, clearly at the beginning, Hunter's was anytime that he would actually pray to Rhea, or he would try to do something, he's taken the relationship on his behalf to go out and talk to the goddess. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing that. And when he does that, that at the beginning, that was he's activated this next piece. And so this is when that happens. And it's kind of cool that you all have no idea what it is. It's basically, for instance, eventually people will get to know you as Newt. Newt has different things that can happen, but I know when it's going to happen. I'm always prepared for it to happen, but it's up to you to activate it, cause it to happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just a fun part of playing.
Oh, Newt. Can't wait till we're talking about him.
Soon enough.
So, the character of Hank John, the party really doesn't like him in episode 1. They fight with him in episode 2. And then near the beginning of episode 3, they find he's doing some shady stuff. So, how is it that you introduce, NPCs to the players in a way that you bait and switch them to where you make them care for a player, and then make them to where, maybe I shouldn't be caring for this person?
I think that when I craft an NPC, I think as fantasy players, we watch a lot of, animation, anime, action movies, superhero movies. And if you're like me, I watch a lot of historical stuff. I'm very weird. Like, I love fantasy just as much as I love history. So, there's certain people, I'm not going to give away all my sources or anything, because I know how Hunter and Travis and you all will go and look and see where I'm pulling stuff from. But there's a lot of historical figures or fantasy figures that are out there that have a certain personality. And when I was making Hank John, first and foremost, I think Hank John is an awesome character because the party tended not to like him, but everybody that was watching it, that's texted me about it, they were like, I like Hank John a lot. And I was like, he's that guy. I think he's relatable. And I think that's one of the things I go to with NPCs.
Yeah, Hank John, he's kind of an asshole, but you kind of grow to love the asshole about it.
Like, I think everybody at some point in their life has that person who can be frustrating at times to put up with, but at the same time, that's just who they are, and they would do anything in this world for you. They're just going to like fuss about it, they're going to be hateful about it, and I think that's just part of who people are, and that's part of who he was. Yeah, is he upfront, blunt, and hateful? Yeah, that's him. But at the same time, if the wolf comes barking at the door, he's grabbing his axe and shield and he's heading out there, to battle with you. So that's just kind of his personality, and that comes from his past. So I think something important with NPCs, and that's something that I take to heart, is, and probably shouldn't do as much as I do, But I'll take an NPC and I'll have like an entire backstory and all this stuff of how they got to where they were, why they are there, and all this. There's certain NPCs that you have to do that for because it matters. But Hank John, he was the innkeeper that had like a side quest, like, probably didn't have to go as in depth as I did with him, but part of his backstory crafted who he was, and I thought that was just cool. And if in case the players really, rolled well or detected thoughts or whatever other options that they had at the time, I don't know what all, I can't even remember now since it's been a few games ago, what all their options were. But if they were to find something, roll a natural 20 while looking around in his office, they might find something cool on about him. Then I could fill in the entire story of Hank John, and it might have changed what they did with him. But right. Sometimes it just don't work out that way, and then Hank John, he's done. So it is what it is.
So I guess I was trying to go in order from episode 2 to 5, but we'll just wing it the way it plays out. So, continuing on to Hank John, when Cable was introduced and had the mission to kill him, is that something that you were working into Cable's backstory, or was that something, I guess, a side quest that sparked off from Hank John's death? Or is that just something you were kind of tired of the character?
No, I don't think I ever get tired of characters, so to speak. I feel like every character has its story, and sometimes those stories end. That's part of life. That's the way it is. But as for Cable in general, so Cable and Ultio, there's so much to uncover and unpack there that only Robert and I know. Robert hasn't really told. He may have forgotten certain pieces. I don't know. But there's a lot been left unsaid about Cable and Ultio and those types of things. And so when me and him are playing through that, this is something he requested in his backstory. So this is something Robert come up with, and I just kind of expounded on. And
okay, so Robert came up with the Hank John aspect?
Not necessarily Hank John, just why he was supposed to remove Hank John, kind of. I put Hank John in that role because it made sense.
Okay.
So, I don't want to say too much because I really want to let Robert open up Cable when he deems it necessary. But Hank John fit the role from his backstory, the way I crafted that NPC, the way that Robert wanted Cable to act and to be, and how his backstory was crafted. It fit. It was it was like pepperoni on pizza. You know what I mean? Like, it was a perfect fit. So right. I just kind of let it happen. It's something. I think part of it, the party was just like, whatever, good. He's gone, good riddance or whatever. But what would have happened if they would have, not? But we'll never know. So.
And as I was, I didn't come in till episode 9. So this is all fresh to me too. 8, yeah. Mm-hmm. This is all fresh to me too. So, but as I was watching it, it seemed everybody was so just okay with taking out Hank John. I guess because he was that kind of asshole to start with. But
I think the group they got tired of Follyfield.
Right. But at the same time, Hank John was being a jerk in the same connection as Cortland was. They were involved in that together. So, but they seemed to take up well with Cortland. I guess just because his attitude, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or that he's not a halfling.
It's so funny.
They were both involved in the same thing. So, they just kind of took up with one and didn't care about the other.
It's funny to sit back and just watch as a DM sometimes, because it's not that, your players are... I don't feel like they make up their mind, super far ahead. Like nothing's predetermined. Like as soon as they meet somebody, like, oh, I hate this guy. I feel like Hunter, Travis, and sometimes Robert, they always let it go, and they're like filling the person out. Like, let's see. Okay, I'm always skeptical because Evan's the DM, and that's fine. Right. I would be. That's smart for them to be. But at the same time, it's like, not everybody in the world's bad, but, you need to fill them out and figure out who exactly they are. And I think that Hank John just gave off the almost, like useless or irrelevant kind of feel to them, which, I mean, honestly, that's okay because it's kind of his role wasn't, party changing, campaign changing, or anything in the direction that they were going with him. However, Cortland, on the other hand, became, their focal point. I wanted to give them an NPC to have like something stable because I knew that they were going to Follyfield, and I knew that the way I had set up Follyfield were the halfling races. I kind of wanted to do something contradictory to the rest of everything that we know about halflings. Halflings are always jolly. They're good. They are Frodo and Sam. They are, you know what I mean? Like they eat 17 times a day and those types of things. Well, what if a halfling was a butthole? What if they were rude? What if they were, ugly and frustrating and, hated outsiders and all those things? And so that's why I made Follyfield. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the way they were at the beginning. They had been screwed multiple times over, but no one really knows all of the... I think in a couple conversations, some of that might have got out about how the halflings weren't really, they didn't really have a choice to join the Kingdom of Stammer, and it was just kind of told that that's what was going to happen. And they were told they were going to pay taxes, and they were told this. So there's some don't tell me what to do aspect still.
All right, so since we're talking about Ultio and Cable, so you care to expound to the people watching how that happened to come about and if that was pre-planned or not?
I think on that specific question, I'll just let that one ride. I'll let that one, and let's just see what happens, kind of with that.
Okay.
And then we'll see where it goes, because Ultio and Cable, it's a very interesting setup, and I think it'll be cool just for everyone to see what happens, and then be like, oh, wait a minute, and then everybody will be going back to episode 3 to check out something that could possibly be in there.
Okay. So they go to search for the witch, and they get to the forest and they're dodging these trees. So how do you come up with an encounter? It's almost a combat encounter with no combat.
Geez, I don't even know. When I was writing that, I was trying to, one of the things, I think Hunter said it a few times in his get to know the players thing, is he's like, Evan always has a reason. And I really do. And so the reason for that was, okay, if Harpene, who, knowing her backstory and everything, she's being accused as a witch, and clearly she has deeper connections, if more than just Follyfield is looking for her. Cortland and his group of people are interested in her, and so they're, she knows that. She's been around a long time. Harpene is probably 350 some years old, so she knows how important of a person she is. She knows where she's at in life, and she knows what knowledge that she has and abilities that she has are coveted from a lot of different groups. So more on Harpene's side, the reason why I designed the counter the way it was is because she wouldn't have just plopped down anywhere. She's going to plop down somewhere strategic for her. And the only people to be able to get to her are going to be people that can potentially help her. So everything kind of worked in her favor by being placed up there on top of a hill that's guarded around by a haunted or enchanted forest. So when I was designing that, I thought, what would be something cool a forest could do? And right. I thought, I don't want it to be like Lord of the Rings and have like tree ants and stuff walking around. So what if I just like make it where only parts of the tree can move because of an enchantment? And that's kind of how that came about.
It reminded me of an entire forest full of whomping willows in Harry Potter.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So I guess speaking of Harpene, the town sees her as a witch. I mean, we kind of find out she's a druid. So why are the town so afraid of Harpene if they just seen Violet, Ultio, and all of them doing magic right there in the street? So what makes a druid any different in the world of magic?
So I'm gonna open up a little bit on Follyfield since we've moved on from that in the campaign anyway. So clearly, this group of adventurers isn't the first group to come through. They are familiar with people that have arcane abilities. They they have been led by people with arcane abilities, so to speak. They have been I guess really the history of Follyfield's a lot smaller than it used to be. A lot of families have moved on, they've moved away. They were tired of working the fields, they were tired of doing certain things, and a lot of the houses were torn down or they were absorbed by Jake Sam's junk. That was one of the things I was trying to get across when I was, talking about how Jake Sam's junk, all the crap out in his area, there was a lot of building materials, and it was basically dismantled homes and dismantled, shops and different things, because Follyfield used to be a decently sized little town, and basically now it's just a village of a few straggling families.
Well, that makes okay sense now. I mean, not to interrupt you or anything, but I know they kind of moved on from that tunnel. Hunter found that magical guarded tunnel, so as to say there wasn't a house built there that a wizard or somebody lived in.
Yeah, there was a few little, checks and different things that could have been attempted in Follyfield, but, just the way the story went, didn't really open up to it. And, the town had heard of a witch that had moved up there because of Cortland. Right. Because he was kind of pushing Hank John to say that. Hank John was an arcane user himself. If you remember, he used laid on hands in the middle of that fight to bring someone back to life. I think Ultio.
Yeah, he was a paladin. He's a paladin. If I'm not mistaken, man.
Yeah. So it's not so much that arcane abilities were just completely unfamiliar to them, and so they wouldn't regard anybody as that. I mean, one of their staple leaders in their village was saying that there's a witch up on the hill. So
right.
They were like, okay, yeah.
So backtrack a little bit. On the way back, they went to look for the box of missing items that fell off the cart, and I want to ask you to go into the Legion of Tusk because I feel like that's a big plot point to figure out later on. And but they were like a ragtag group from the Legion of Tusk, but all in all, they just kind of stumble into a guarded cave, full of these guarded chests of different items. And I guess what was the pebbles were in there? I don't necessarily call it a pebble, but that's what I've been calling them, pebbles.
Yeah, I like pebbles because it's just a generic term.
Right.
Well, so the Legion of Tusk, the last war that really, affected Manola's, it affected several kingdoms. It affected, thousands and thousands of people, and it was a movement, and all this. So basically, just to give you a little bit of history about how the Legion of Tusk came about, is at one point in time, the orcs and half-orcs were an oppressed people, and there was a king of Stamrin who basically raided the ribs and enslaved them. And so orcs for a long time served as slaves in different places in the kingdom of Stamrin. And I just felt like the orcish race is a proud race, and I thought it was cool to have them play this part. So at a point in time, a couple of the orcs realized, hey, screw you, and they revolted. So this would be the beginnings of the Legion of Tusk. Now, the Legion of Tusk isn't always... there's an entire roller coaster, and I'll kind of leave that for you guys to figure out. But anyway, the Legion of Tusk, for what it initially became to what it currently, or what it was at the height of its power, versus what it is now, are like three total different entities.
Right. So they kind of started off, like the Spartacus revolt in ancient Rome.
Right. Yeah, they were like, no, we are a people too, and you will recognize us as a populace, and if you're not going to, we're going to fight and show you. So they did. Mm-hmm. And this has probably been just getting deep into the lore stuff. The Legion of Tusk struck blows to the Kingdom of Stamrin, the strongest that they'd ever seen since the Dark Tyrant, which was back forever ago in history. So, I mean, the Legion of Tusk was a real deal.
So, going on to the little cave they found with the pebbles, you can't help see, and I know it's D&D, you're going to take whatever you find, you don't see something and just leave it.
Right.
But that had to be placed there for a purpose. People don't set things up intricately guarded if they don't want it kept there. Mm-hmm. Well, at least without a way to get into it without being hurt, knowingly. So,
yeah, so the sea cavern that they found is a pickup / drop off point for an undisclosed group. I think when they rolled their perception checks, the DC wasn't super high because, it's a sea cavern out on the middle of a beach. So, it's not going to be hard to see. And, I didn't know if they would investigate it or not. But since that they did, there was a couple dead bodies in there. So clearly some other thieves. I think that there was one, if they would have picked up on some of its features and stuff, it was actually a brigander that had made his way from Maple Dock up there, which I know no one knows what that is currently. But anyway, right. It's pretty cool. But looking back at it now, they might be able to connect some dots. But, that had tried to get it himself, but failed. So, mm-hmm. There's a purpose to it. And no one knows why yet. But, so they've taken something that belongs to someone else. That's all I can say on that.
Right. Well, to add on that, and I know Hunter probably doesn't even give it a second thought, but Violet's character is like a upright and just person. She's not taking anything that's not hers. She's not treating anybody badly. Mm-hmm. How do you think that plays with her character of just kind of taking things that's out there? And not to knock on Hunter, because he probably didn't even think twice about it. It's a game. You see something, you're gonna take it. But...
Yeah, I think. Probably, and I can't speak for Hunter's character, but I think that when Hunter saw that, he probably thought, this has been long forgotten. I think part of him thinks it could be a possible relic, which is kind of what Violet searches for. So he was like, I'm definitely taking that because I might be able to take that back to the monastery and somebody explain. Right. So I don't know what avenue that he finds just in taking it for, but also he probably thinks, why is this all the way out here in the middle of nowhere? Why, if it was so important and wasn't evil, couldn't they just exchange it in a city or exchange it somewhere like that? Why does it got to be out here? So maybe it was, you could view it as being just by saying, you know, I'm not going to let this fall into the wrong hands and I'm taking it. So I don't know. I don't know what he thinks.
I hadn't even thought of that, you know. Like you said, I mean, it could have been there 1,000 years. You don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they knew that the chest looked old. So there's that.
The root, her whole plan with the root. So, in her mind, I guess she's fine. They're going to hang her, and then... And I know as a DM you had that set up. Did you always have it set up to where they were going to try to burn her?
I did, yeah.
So you had the forethought. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was set in the, you know, when I first started writing this, because, you know, also, just to keep in mind, when I designed Follyfield, I designed it like the level 1 tutorial area. So, I mean, it was designed to bring the party to give a place where the party could come together, give them a common kind of goal, give them some things to, you know, find out, investigate, and that type of stuff. But really, the overall, like, I guess you could say main quest to Follyfield was pretty strict and written way beforehand.
Okay, I didn't know if you had, you know, seen the party and how things were going. I was like, you know, this is going a little too easy. Let's just, you know, we're going to burn her. So, you know, if there's ash or something to bring back.
It's so weird. Like, sometimes when certain things, I'm like, dang, that was way too easy. And then the next encounter, the next thing, I'm like, geez, that was so... I had to lower that down, or I'm going to lower that down next time because that was so hard. It's hard to tell.
Right.
Like, you know.
And how do you avoid things like that? Because I don't know if you remember, you know, Landon, our little editor here, just me and you and him, he had a one-shot one time. And he said he had like 2 pages written on this map. And we ran in one side, hopped in the cart, and drove out the other. And he just crumpled it up and threw 2 pages away and never talked about it again.
Yeah, I think sometimes for a DM that happens. It's just one of those things, like, where it's not that really the party outsmarts you or anything, or outsmarts the story. It's just they are creative and come up with a different way that you didn't think about. And then, you know, that's your fault. That's kind of like playing the game together. Like, if you all come up with some idea that I didn't conceive beforehand and it works to get through something, I mean, well, crap. You know what I mean? You all got through it. That's part of D&D. You know, kudos for you all to get through it. But from this point forward, I will keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Like, so you win this time. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
I mean, there was a lot going on there at the end. And, you know, the whole town was kind of uprising. And they just kind of, you know, just kind of got the hell out of Dodge real quick. And kind of left a lot of unanswered, open-ended secrets in Follyfield. So as a DM, is that something that, you know, you just let go, or at some point do you try to drive the party back there, or you just kind of write that off and maybe place it somewhere else in the world?
So the way I've designed this campaign compared to others in the past is I initially had a drive and set up, you know, the party's going to meet, we're going to start at Follyfield. And when they leave Follyfield, the main quest is kind of going to take them to Maple Dock. And then once they get to Maple Dock, it's open-ended. Like, you know, there's all kinds of different things for them to do. There's multiple cities to go to. There's multiple, you know, kind of quests. Like, everybody has family members or significant ones or people that matter to them all over Manolan. And then people have pressing matters, you know, in their hometowns or their places where they had been before. And, you know, I mean, for instance, you know, there's a lot of action in the west of Manola currently, where we are in the campaign, that seems to be needing to be dealt with. And you got kind of your story and Hunter's story, a reason to go into the middle of Manola. And, you know, there's all kinds of different stuff. And then Harpene, she has her own agenda, and she's invited Kraloth to come with her to help her do that piece. And it's just, like, there's all kinds of different ways for y'all to go. So I don't think I'm ever going to drive back to Follyfield or drive anywhere. I'm not going to try to drive anywhere for that matter. I'm just going to present the situation and the news as you all discover it, and then what you guys do with it, it's up to you.
So, say there's like something that needed to be found for a main story quest or something. How do you, if they miss that, how do you bring it back into play without telling them what to do or having them just wander around aimlessly for 3 or 4 sessions?
So I think that part falls on me and my design of the campaign. When I have a significant thing, like say that there is, like, they have to meet this specific person, or they have to find this specific thing, it's better for me to not limit that person or item to one location.
Okay.
Let it be, it's still a part of the main quest, and it's still a part of, whatever, but if it needs to be that location, or if it, it doesn't have to be a specific location, I can just plug it in anywhere. Just make it make sense wherever I plug it in at. Now, the vice versa of that, if it's a specific location that they need to go to, which I try not to do, I try to stay away from that as much as I can. But if it is a specific location that they have to go to for it to make sense, give them, slew of reasons to go there.
Okay.
Or
and I guess on the
pick locations that's already built in somebody's backstory. That way, it gives them good reasons to go there.
Right.
Either way.
And I guess on the flip side of that, is there times to where you have, say, and it just kind of got me thinking of a previous campaign we played, where you have items or NPCs that you really don't think nothing of, just a random person, but the party gets so attached to them that you ever take that, yeah, and just make them actually have to do, like, make them part of your main storyline to where they actually are something that you didn't plan it to be?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of options for that. I think that that's one of the reasons why when I design NPCs now, I kind of try to give them a little bit more backstory, a little bit more reputation than I did previously, just in case that ever happens. But
yeah, because Pike started out of just captain the guard, and then we got so attached to him, that made you cry when we lost him.
Yeah, like he was a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, what's funny is I can probably have this, like, one person like Hank John, I can have his entire, like, life written out, and then you all wax him or just pay no more attention to him, and then pick up one person off the side of the street who's not even named. I just pull something out of a hat or off my naming page, and then it's like, this person's the most important person in the world to the party, and then you just got to adapt. That's part of what you got to do. So
yeah, Hunter had a campaign one time, right? And it was just a random guy. He ended up being like, we were trying to find out his school, his home life, and everything.
Yeah.
I can't even remember his name, but he ended up being buried in the snow somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was the Iceland campaign. I think his name was Danica or something.
Yeah. We were trying to find his school, his home, everything. No, I'm kind of skipped over that. I can get back to that. So back to Kraloth. So, well, and also Hunter too. I guess back to Harpene, really. So, she knew all about Kraloth's ideas and what was going on with him, even things that Kraloth doesn't know. And I'm assuming that's because she's from, as old as she is, she's going to know things, but I'm assuming that's from, she wants to go back, so she's kind of from the same location Kraloth is. But at the same time, and I guess it might just be me overthinking things, but at the same time, Hunter mentions that, I can't remember the name of the town, where the undead were trying to take the book he was looking for.
Boste.
And Boste. So, she knew that the zombies had followed them to Follyfield. She knew that it was because of Violet. She knew all about Kraloth. So, I guess that's, I don't know how to ask without asking you to give away everything. I know it's as old as she is, but is there something more that the parties just seem to not be digging into Harpene? Because she seems to know a lot about everyone already.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there is, and I think that I don't know how much the group values Harpene. I don't know what they think of her. I don't know if they're afraid, but also at the same time they trust her or what. So I think that relationship is going to grow, or it's going to just dissipate one way or another. I don't know exactly.
Because you know she tells Kraloth more about his life than he ever knew himself. And then Violet's saying something, and she's like, "Oh, so now you're going to tell him?" And she's like, "Yeah, well, I thought I should." And it just kind of is one of those things in conversations where you're like, "Hey, how did you even know?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just wasn't.
It's like
asked.
they're so trusting. Yeah, it's like they're so trusting. They're just like, "Okay, I guess you did know." There's nothing odd about that, and everything we've done and been through over the last 2 weeks.
I think that's part of D&D too. That's in the DM's favor. Sometimes the player forgets that they're talking to a specific NPC, and sometimes they just subconsciously, oh yeah, well I'm just talking to Evan, and I know he does. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and watching it, I think it's it's easier to say on the outside looking in, why they didn't ask this, and the art of playing, you're thinking of so many things, so many questions.
Right. Yeah. Hindsight's 20/20.
And things happen so quick. Like we were talking about, Cable got bit by a werehobbit, and I didn't even catch it until they were talking the next day. And to be honest, I don't even know if Cable caught it until the next day.
Yeah, I don't really remember, exactly. I remember it happening. I remember why it happened. I remember how it happened. But I don't remember what he said about it the next day as clear.
Right. And just me as a person, I texted the party and was like, y'all gotta go back to Follyfield. We never got what was in the feed shed. And everybody's like, oh yeah, that was Hank John. And now that I'm watching this, I'm like, Hank John? I'm like, you got werehobbits running around. You think Hank John got in the feed shed?
I think at the beginning there was so much on everyone, especially how the campaign started. I brought in everyone individually, and then there was so much going on for that specific, person or character that it was like, okay, so I got all this stuff that I have to take care of and watch for and deal with, and then now, wait a minute, what just happened? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on.
So the whole flying castle, you had people roll. So is that like a chart, a list that you have set up for travel? How do you do your travel days?
Yeah, man, I have a chart made, and it's like a complicated chart. Like, you have to roll a d20, and it's one of these, 1 through 20 options. And then if it's certain options, you have to roll a d12 to see what it is. Or if it's another option, you have to roll a d8. Or if you roll, this specific option, you have to roll a d10. And if you roll a specific option on the d10, you have to roll a d8 or a d4 or whatever, that's built deep. Like, there's all kinds of different steps to it. Mm-hmm. And I'll be daggone if they didn't roll, I think it was a 19 or whatever Robert rolled.
Right. Yeah.
And it triggered the first step of that. So, they triggered it. I can't help it. It's episode 5, right. And then they triggered it. So, here it goes.
So, everybody has their favorite part of D&D. We're all different people. And, everybody knows, you can tell by now, Robert's favorite part is just the fighting. So, how do you incorporate the needs of all your players into one to where you're not overshadowing one and undershadowing another?
I think that's the absolute hardest thing in the world to do, is how do you design a campaign to where no one feels left out and everyone feels meaningful all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And part of that is,
and bless his heart, he wants to fight for an episode and a half, and when he does, he gets put to sleep.
I know. Gosh, I know. Because it was random what they fought. That's why they had to roll. Mm-hmm. And then when I was reading through, which I'd read through before, and I knew that it was actually a jackal were is what they were fighting. and I'd read through, the abilities of them, and one of the abilities that they could do is that scream or cry or however it's worded. And I was sitting there like, surely it'll just get. When I was designing the encounter, I thought it'll probably only get one of them. Everyone else will pass it, whatever. I would have never thought that the one it would have got would have been Cable's character, who had been begging to fight. So I mean, sometimes just the DOS decides,
Right.
But yeah, I think how you keep everyone satisfied is, I think that's why I came up with the structure that I did. Like, everyone has a personal story, everyone has a developmental quest line, and then we have the main quest line. And so I think if you can have those three things, and they're always ongoing, and then you all are going to pile up all kinds of side quests on top of it. So you all are going to have plenty to do, and that's the way I want it. I want it to be like a classic RPG game. I want you all to be able to, okay, well, I really want to help this person out because this looks like a good reward, so I'm going to go do this. Or, if I do this side quest, it might make the main quest easier. So, let's go do that. Or, screw both of those. That's just a waste of time for me. Let's just do this and get it done, and the results will be what the results are. And I want that feel to be out there, so you guys actually choose the game, or you guys are telling the story just as much as I am. So,
right, and to piggyback off that, I just think it's, without tugging on your own horn or something, I just amazing how you have the world set up. I mean, you've got like Manolan Phase 1, call back to Marvel Phase 1. You've got each character with their own, and it's not just a tiny little quest they're going on. Each character has their own massive arc you've got set up. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know how much of the main quest that you've even put out there, but just out of looks and watching the last 5, because I was 8 through 13 so far, mm-hmm. and just out of the first 7 episodes and what I've been on so far, it's like we've not even cracked the book of the main quest. So we're each, and people might look at that and be like, "Wow, that's a long campaign. What if people get tired of the campaign?" Well, it's not just one campaign. You got like 6 campaigns inside of one. Mm-hmm. So each person is it's like you're building a quest, not just for something to have somebody to do, but as a player, as an audience, you're building care for each character, like a reason. Because if you just have a bunch of guys get together and then head off on the main quest, like, who are you? Why should you be anything? Like, why are you even the one to take up this quest? It's more, you've got it not so contrived to where they have a reason to be together, but it's like they have a reason for the world to want them to be the ones to do it. Like the Avengers, you don't just be like, "Hey guys, go do this." They've proved themselves to the world.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's something too, is because I want your characters to matter. I'm on the total opposite end of people that are like, well, if he dies, I'll just remake this character and change one letter of his name and I'll just play that one. Like, no, make this character matter. Like, this is you in the story. Like, it almost makes me want to be like, you don't get another character. Like, once this character's that's it. You know what I mean? Right. Of course, I would never do that because I want, everybody to be able to keep playing, especially if somebody died way early. But, I want the characters to mean something. I want you guys to get attached to them. I want them to be more than just a DOS, I guess.
Right. Yeah, saying that, I've not, the audience hasn't seen this yet, but I play Newt, and he's just a fat little kid, and I don't say kid, he started as a kid, he was like 21 now, but I've played 3-4 sessions with him. He feels like my real life little brother at this point. I don't want him to happen to him.
Yeah, I can't wait for the audience to meet him, and we get to talk more about Newt and stuff that's going on there.
Yeah, but just the way it's set up, I think you have it good. A lot of things start out slow. Yours didn't start out slow. You had it going to where there's a reason, there's missions, there's chaos. Chaos.
but chaotic cast.
No, you had a purpose. So it like you hit the ground running, but it's not like you were just running in a random direction. I can't even explain. I don't know what's going on in your head.
It's a mess. That is for sure. I mean, basically, I want to set everybody up. I want you all to get through. I mean, if it was a perfect world and a perfect campaign, everyone would get to complete like their personal quest and kind of get that finished. And so they're kind of like, okay, I know that I've got my stuff back home taken care of. Now I can move on to this pressing matter. And then, then their development quest, like, okay, well, who am I? Those two things I'm kind of hoping come to fruition before the main pieces take off. And you're mostly right that the main quest, nothing's been really opened up on that yet. There's been like little hints and random pieces of knowledge and information given out, but I don't think you guys have hit home on it yet. Exactly, what could be potentially brewing. But I don't think it'll be like forever before you guys are like, all right, this is starting to sound bad. You know what I mean? Like You're going to be able to start piecing stuff together eventually.
Right. And I mean, even if it is forever, it's not like, yeah, it's there and you know about it, but it's not like it has to be. And you can be figuring stuff out as you're not actively doing the quest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can be discovering things about the quest without actually being on the quest. So it's just, that's why I love D&D so much. There's nothing tied off.
Yeah, man. And I'm the world's greatest at loose ends. Like, let me just freaking pour them in there.
Yeah, like the whole story of the Legion of Tusk. What, I had a campaign lasted a session and a half, and you made a character, and that's developing your entire Legion of Tusk storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you hadn't played with him a day and a half, and it ended up being probably a year and a half long campaign.
Yeah, he's in the history books, man.
Yeah, the same with Theophily, right? I mean, he's in the intro video. He lasted what, 5 sessions before he changed?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not exactly sure how long that was our first game ever. I don't know how long that lasted.
Is it something to where if they don't roll again, they could possibly find it, or is that just a luck of the draw, a roll on another travel day to where they could even find anything else out about it?
The Flying Castle has its purpose in the game, in the story. It's just I didn't expect a sighting of it that early. I wanted the possibility to be there, but I didn't really expect it to happen.
Right. This, what? You know exactly what it reminded me of. I don't know if you caught on to this or not. The original Pokemon series, what was it, episode 1, maybe episode 2? Ash looks up and sees a flying Ho-Oh.
Oh yeah, Ho-Oh. Everybody's like, "What's that?"
Yeah, and Ho-Oh don't even appear until the Silver and Gold games, So
right. Yeah.
The next region, he's like, "Oh, look what I was saying." That's what it reminds me. We'll see a flying castle. We won't see it again until the next campaign.
I hope at some point in time. Oh gosh, wouldn't that just be rude? Just to let y'all get a glimpse of it. The rest of the campaign is like, gosh, we're traveling. Maybe we'll see the castle again, and then it's never even an option. That'll just be a straight dick move. No, it's got its place in the story, and I hope you guys eventually get lucky enough to stumble across it. But I mean, it's a flying castle, so good luck.
Alright.
But it's out there. There's a chance.
No, I mean, the way you got your world set up, it wouldn't surprise me if you had Gulliver's Travels in this thing, even the flying worlds and everything.
The castle is interesting. Like, I've already got the castle completely designed, so it is interesting to see if you all find it.
Tune in. We'll try to start doing these weekly to where it's not, not necessarily bi-weekly, bi-episodely.
Yeah. Yeah, every other episode, or every time we have an episode, the week after, we hope to get a review out. But, sometimes it'll be 2 episodes in one, but we'll try to be 1 episode.
Okay.
And then I think something, too, going forward is, and this can be for the viewers as well, is every 4 to 5 episodes, I'll try to get back on here to discuss some DM stuff, because I feel like there's some deeper lore, there's some deeper questions that can be asked the DM,
Right.
versus the players. But I do want it to be player driven for the most part.
Yeah, we're still a work in progress, so maybe one of these days I get this big green blanket out from behind me and get an actual background. Alright. Well, y'all take it easy and we'll tune in for the next one.
Subscribe. See ya.
Huh?